G'day guys, what's cracking? This Ralph Mayhew here, and this is the 12mm F2.8 full frame manual lens from Brightin Star, and this is the lens that I would say if you want a crackerjack mega wide, we're talking crazy wide, this is the one to go to. And if you want something for architecture or real estate shots that's super wide, maybe you just want a landscape lens that just does the job, it just has one setting, 12mm, and goes boom, this is the one to go for. With an f-stop of 2.8, we're talking about really good bokeh in the background and clear focus in the foreground. It's classic Brightin Star build, which is a full metal body. Yeah, like metal body. So it has a significant weight to it, but it's pretty much indestructible. I love how they've put this on the top, because when it goes in your camera bag and you look down, you can just see this and you know exactly what lens it is without going, is it this one or this one or this one? So kudos to you. We take that off. It's a nice, it's a metal. Oh. It's metal. Oof. I didn't think that through, did I? So it's metal. Talk about getting thrown. Metal grid. You cannot put a filter on it, but you can stash a filter on the inside here, and it comes with a night filter which basically filters the yellow out of the sky, so you get more of a popping image, something that really goes off and looks fantastic. So they thought of that, and you build that, you just screw it in. It's a little thing, you screw it in here. Here is the bayonet finish for the Z Mount camera. So we're talking Nikon Z Mount, and it's quite simple. There's no switches, it's totally manual. You can use focus peaking on your body to do that. So you put focus peaking on and it will highlight red, that which is in focus. But I would suggest going in with a plus button and zooming right in, and as you change the focus up here, you will see exactly what's in focus and what's not. And if you're shooting on f-stop of 2.8, it's going to be a shallower field of focus than if you're shooting on f16, where really everything's pretty much in focus. If you're shooting night photography in Astro, you want it on 2.8 because you want it as wide as possible to get as much light in as possible. That's why it's important to focus on the stars. You do that by plussing all the way in and then just tinkering around with this. I wouldn't ever trust on any lens these markings here. Like, they're handy and they're a good indicator, but you can't just go, I'm just going to set it to infinity and we're going to be good, because it's never spot on good. So go the extra mile and use the magnifying glass and make sure you just bang on. And then we have our f-stop. So on the Brightin lenses, when you plug them into your camera, where your aperture is, it says f dash dash, because it's manual, so it can't read what aperture it is. So you have to set the aperture, and then you have to set your camera accordingly. So if you're shooting Astro at f2.8 and you want to get the Milky Way, for example, you put your ISO around 3200 and your shutter speed at around 15 seconds. That way the stars don't move, but also you get as much light into here. And then what I do is I'd stay at 2.8 and then I just adjust my ISO up or down depending on how your camera body is handling that. I do think manual lenses add to the mystery and the excitement and the work, in a good way, of photography, because photography is so easy now. Like, everyone shows us that with their phones, right? But with a manual lens, when you put it on, you have to work a little bit harder, and I really, really appreciate that. Classic Brightin Star colors of orange and black. Looks sleek, looks good, has a little red dot, so when it comes to putting it on your camera, it's really quite easy. And this is what it looks like on your body. So I reckon it looks good. It's kind of a nice little handy lens. They've obviously got a lot of glass in there to make it work appropriately. Oh, just a word of warning. Can you give me a tiny bit of grace, because the audio that's coming up is not the best. I'll explain why afterwards. All right, let's get outside. Let's get cracking on some photos. And as we begin to do that, I need to tell you that the lens cap here, as I've had this on my hip over my shoulder, about a minute of it bouncing around and this falls off. So it actually doesn't have as much grip on it as I'd like. I'll talk about the built-in lens hood in just a jiffy. So with that in mind, let's have a look at some images. Here's the first one, and as you can see, because it's wide, everything in, unless it's bang on in the middle, is a little bit bent. So that's on a little bit of a lean. You can see that. This is dead straight. And then these one super bit of a lean. So the lens actually pulls everything a little bit like this to the edge. So I want to test the sharpness of this lens, and up here you'll see it doesn't have the f-stop. So this is f16 and I'm zooming right in at 400%. So that's quite sharp, pretty happy with that. Then I'm going to go to f8 and go right in. And that's not too bad. It's a manual focus, you need to keep that in mind. This is f2.8. So as it gets more towards 2.8, it does get a little blurry and a little pixelated. So this is shot at f8, and look at the starburst you get on this beast. Looks so good. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 10, and it's sharp and it's creative, and I really love it. And you'll see a little bit more of that in a second, how it can be super effective and really cool in a shot that you're taking. These are f14, but so that was focused, which it is, and these are focused. Let me move right in. Again, this is f14, and I really like it. The exposure was 90 seconds, and you can see like the center of the shot is pretty straight, but it starts to have a lean on it like that. We can actually sort the lean out by going down here to transform, and you get sort of a photograph that looks like that, but the problem is you lose the benefit of having a 12mm. So you just have to put up with the fact that it's 12mm. But if you have something that sits out here and you really want that straight, you can actually take that section in Photoshop and just warp it up by pushing it back. So don't feel like you've stuffed it if you have that experience. Now I wanted to test it in one kind of its natural environment. So what you need to know about this is there's a little bit of lens flare right here and obviously here. I polished the lens and made sure that both the front and back were really, really good, but I do like how all these little lights starbursting, which looks really, really cool. And I could put a sick edit on this that would look like this and end up something like that. So that was at f8. You see the starburst at f8? It's kind of nuts, isn't it? Then I took my f8 and I went, that's f8 and that's f8. And then I thought, let's shoot at f11 to get all of this in focus. And that's really quite sharp. Look at it. Look at the detail inside the rooms. It's at f8, so it's at the strongest point of the lens, but it really gives you a sharpness around the whole feel. This was a light that just flicked around, and I could do a nice edit up and pull the oranges out of that, contrast it with the blue here, and just would look really, really nice, really schmick-o. So I'm pretty, I'm enjoying the lens because there's no way I could possibly take this photograph on a lens that wasn't 12mm or more wide. And that's the beauty of a wide lens. So you want to take it and do things with it that are really creative that you couldn't do otherwise. So I couldn't take this shot, I couldn't get up so close and have it kind of wrap around me with a lens that wasn't a 12mm or more. With this one, I couldn't get this water just rushing into the side and keep the city in the background. So keep that in mind when you're shooting. Now I wanted to go f2.8 and see how close we could get. So have a look at this. This is really up close, and it's not like this is 400%, right? So zoomed right in, and it could be a little bit sharper, but this is a glass or resin finish that the light bounces off, so that would be forgiven. But I wanted to show you some of the bokeh that it can achieve when this is the focus. So a lens face is this far away from the koala's eye. Have a look at how much below and above still gets in the shot. So if you're shooting with a 24mm, you're really looking and you're isolated to this area. But with the 12mm, it goes boom and sticks all this in it as well, which I just love the ability that it has to do that. So then I thought, let's go to the precinct and give it a crack by focusing on my watch, because I'm holding my watch here with my camera here, and then I'm taking this shot. So you can actually have things really close, and it pushes the rest of it into this blurry bokeh thing that gives you a sense where we are. So like, that's a pretty cool shot at 10:31 p.m. That's when I was shooting this, and it's at hotter, and you have that. And obviously you can just run a real quick edit over it to get something like this. There you go, it just looks interesting and creative. I kind of like it. Now let's have a look at what we can do with the wide aperture on this lens. So this was shot on 2.8. You can see the A is really quite in focus and looking good. The L is out of focus. So you have this sort of plane, and then it fades away to there. Then I went to the other extreme. I went to f16. And f16 has this in focus It really fires up here. I was so close to that L. I'm like this close to that L. But then it pushes right the way back. And f16, it holds... Isn't that interesting? So like really close to something, you still start to lose it after this point. It goes a little bit blurry. So helpful to know if your primary subject, even shooting on f16, is right in front of you, you won't get the result, because it's focusing right in front of you, you won't get the result that you might get with a phone where everything's in focus and takes away the depth that you can create. So even on f16, it still values the fact that if there's something really, really close, it's going to hold that in focus, and then it's going to lose its focus after that. It might be for you, might not be. This is f6.7, so about the halfway mark of the lens, 6.7 to 8 right in there. And again, you get half of between this and this. So yeah, I don't know, what do you think? Put your comments down below. Then I took it outside to a festival of sculptures that we have on the Gold Coast called Swell. And the beauty, what I really loved about this lens, is I could take photographs that would be impossible on any other sort of lens. And so you could be really, really creative. The challenge is it can take longer to focus on this lens. So you're not just whipping it out, you're actually like whipping it out, like making sure you got it right. If you've got a little bit just bad eyes like me, you got to zoom in, you got to make sure it's all bang on and then click. Or if you're trying some creative stuff, like here, I have to set the focus beforehand, guess at it, and then I'm moving the camera around to try and get that shot that I want here, with his eyes just looking at me like this. And I would then actually crop that down, and I know it defeats the purpose of a wide, but it doesn't actually. You see, with the wide, you get a different field of view and different results, even if you're shooting at the same equivalent distance, because of the stretch that it brings. So you couldn't do that with, say, a 24mm lens, even though that may be cropped down to about a 24. It's probably cropped closer to a 20mm. It's shots like this that you have to pre-focus to a certain degree and then punch in, and you know, it's harder to use the old, I'm just going to stick my camera here and all the best, when you haven't had a chance to focus it in, when it doesn't auto focus. What it does on other fully automated focused lenses, not on this one. But this is cool. Like, there was this snake, and so just really, really appreciated that. It was this cool little, like, look at the quality and the sharpness. So this lens is really quite sharp, and I was really impressed with it. Again, nice and close, it's nice and sharp. I really like this shot. So this shot, I'm really up close to this wooden sculpture. Look at the colors and the flow and the texture of this wood. But actually, so these are the rascals in the middle. And so it's just a creative way, and the city's behind them. So just a creative way of presenting that photograph. Again, it gives you these really great opportunities. This is edited up, but it's so Gold Coast. It's so Australian. I just love it. And I also was able to take the what's going to be the cover of this year's calendar, like this, because look at the stars. You see the star burst, and look at this, is fascinating. If I go back to here, so there's nothing diffusing or blocking that sun to make it pop other than it's on f16. And on f16, it enables the sun to present itself with this piercing light, and I reckon that's cool. It's like a weapon this lens brings that you might not get elsewhere. Now, that doesn't come without a little bit of a cost, which we'll get to in a sec. Then we had a nice sky, and this was easier to focus, and that was all looking good. The sky was looking splendid. Even in low light, does pretty good. Like, that's in low light. That's a ISO of 2500. And if I put just a really quick edit on that, just to increase this a little bit, and just do a bit of this and a bit of that, I reckon that's pretty nice. Then they had this giant eagle, which I just have to show you because it was like insane. And what I enjoyed about this, so this is on ISO of 8000. And when you push in there, you can just about see it, but you can't tell from that length and from that distance away. But this lens causes you to appreciate every shot a little bit more, which I really hope you might enjoy and benefit from if you choose to get it. And then finally, I just want to show you, this is freehand, and so I'm holding the camera for a exposure of 1/5 of a second. The sky was beautiful, and this is the result. Standing on a rock in the wind with the surf pommeling in. Pretty happy with this shot, and I haven't actually ran a denoise over it. Well, it's ISO 64, but I haven't ran any sharpening over it or anything like that. And as you can see, the light's fading. I'm shooting on an ISO of 80. Would have been helpful to have that improved a lot more. Finally, let's talk about Astro, because this lens lends itself to Astro, and the challenge we've had recently is our Milky Way is in the west, and for me to shoot west, I have to travel like an hour and a half west to get a decent shot. So what I thought I'd do is I'd shoot into the darkness around where my local hangout is. See this little mark up here? That's because of the lens flare. Now this is at 6 seconds at 3200, and the f-stop's on 2.8, and you can just make out the Milky Way there. Now this lens comes with a natural light filter, and so you need to take this lens off, you need to unscrew the RSL filter that's there, you need to put the natural light filter on, and then it will take the yellows out of the sky. And watch what happens. Exactly the same settings in exactly the same position. Watch what happens to the colors. You see that? So no night filter, night filter, no night filter, night filter. How good are the stars? Nice and sharp. So you can see from that, even that constellation there's a long way away. It is very sharp in picking up the stars and the assurance that you need to make sure you've got a decent Astro lens. So then I went to a vertical. You see there, it's the lens flare, and so if I move it a little bit to the left, it takes that away. But you also need to recognize that when you do that, you actually limit the shot that you want to take. That's with the natural light. It's a longer exposure, and then this is without. So look at that. So just the detail, you've got the slight Milky Way just here. See it there? They're much better with the natural light filter. I then turned it straight to my left, and there's a street light. And what happens is the light goes straight across the lens and shoom, does this weird thing that gives you this bracketed to the right, like strong light bracket, and then up toward the light, it gives you these weird sort of just shards of light. Right, this is a challenge, and this is the challenge because when you mount the lens, it gives you top and bottom protection, but it doesn't give you side protection. So it would be great, and I don't know why they haven't done it, of just maybe it's just for looks and aesthetic, but to build this lens hood all the way around, because when you put your finger, just your finger here, this is what happens. Problem solved. So all it needs is your finger just here to shadow the light going onto the lens, and you get a completely different result. Oh, my apologies for that terrible audio. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, my mic. I thought my mic was plugged in, and it wasn't, so it had about this much battery, and then I didn't realize the battery had died. What do you think of the 12mm F2.8 from Brightin Star manual full frame Nikon Z Mount lens? I hope this video has given you a bit of an orientation into it. I wish I could have gone out and done some better Astro, but I'm really convinced. You see those close-up shots of those stars? This is going to be a banger when it gets out into the wild to really give it a go. And with the Astro thing, you're really looking for sharpness in the foreground, and you can control that really quite well, as you saw with those stars. When the stars are so far away, when you zoom in on those stars and use the manual adjustment ring right here, you can get some amazing results. And the light that this allows in, because this big dome lens and the f2.8, well, you know already if you think it's for you, and if you're pondering it, there's a little bit of a discount on the price for the first couple of weeks, and then it'll bump up to around its normal price. So I will leave that all with you. There's a link in the description below, which I invite you to go and have a bit of a gander at. If you get any questions, I will do my best to answer them. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you after you like and subscribe in the next video. Bye. He says, wondering where the little red dot is. Oh, for a second there.